What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. So today I just wanted to go through how to actually compose for the piano. I haven't really done a video like this on the channel before, but I've gotten a few requests for it, and coming from a classical piano background, I thought I may be able to share a few insights into my personal composing process, and hopefully it gives you a couple of ideas to implement into your own writing, whether it's strictly for the piano or, you're writing piano parts for a client or a bigger orchestral piece. It doesn't really matter. A lot of these principles stay the same. And because I've been writing some piano music this year, I thought I would share two case studies with you, like two practical examples of how I actually think about writing, show you these concepts in practice. So the first one I want to start with is called Hold My Hand. It's meant for about like level 3 or level 4 in the RCM. I'm from Canada, so that's sort of our classical standard. So this is intended for that more like beginner intermediate level. The second example I'll share is a bit more complicated. It's around level 9 or 10, and that one is more for the advanced pianists, just so we have a bit of variety here. But that leads me into the first concept that I want to share with you here, and then we'll play the piece so you can get a sense of what it actually sounds like. The first thing I want to mention is starting with an actual theme is very, very important. And theme, I just mean a hook or a melody that you want to portray to the audience. You want to come across in a very clear manner. For me, the melody is king. It always has been king. And if you want your piece to have its own certain identity, then I think a great theme is really, really important, honestly. It kind of gives the piece its own heartbeat or its own DNA. So with that being said, let me play Hold My Hand for you, and then we can kind of discuss how it works. Here we go. Sorry, we'll start from the beginning. And there we go. So very, very simple piece. It literally is under a minute long, but that's the sort of intention I was going for when writing for more like beginner intermediate levels. Like you want to give them a core basic idea in terms of the melody, have the harmony to support it, and then make it a very manageable length, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to mention is writing a theme that is appropriate to the level that you're going for, of course. And usually that will involve keeping things within one single hand position. The more beginner they are, the more you want to keep it within one hand position. So usually we have 5 fingers, most people, and when you lay them on the piano, each finger will lay on one key, one after the other. So for example, on your MIDI controller, if you have that in front of you, if I put my thumb on a C, then the index finger will go on the D next to it, then the E, the F, and the G, right? So each finger sort of has its own dedicated key. That would be what we would call a single hand position, like C position or G position. It really is just where your thumb lies. That's where the naming comes from, C position, etc. So in this case, you notice we're in the key of F major. So for the most part, we're in the F position, right? I kind of start on the third of the chord, so I'm using my middle finger. And then the rest of this melody, this entire line, all of that was done in F position. I didn't have to move my hand at all, okay? That's really, really important because you want to make sure that they're focused on activating the right fingers, and they don't have to move a lot because that would add a lot of complexity. That's more reserved for late intermediate, let's say advanced players, right? Where you have lots of complexity. Now the left hand, on the other hand, I'm starting to explore just a little bit because if you stick with one hand position all the time, it can get possibly a little bit repetitive, static, potentially boring. So in this case, I'm kind of expanding beyond just the fifth. C to F or F to C. I'm kind of going down to the E as well, so that's a 6th interval. And in bar 2 here, you can see we have a D to a C. So here we have a 7th interval, right? So it's sort of expanding just beyond the regular 5th position. And so therefore it gets a little bit more complex, but not overly complex. Like level 3, level 4 players should be able to play this pretty easily, I would say. But anyway, having a theme that the student can learn and a harmony that supports it in a complementary way is really, really crucial, I think, for the basis of your composition. The second thing to keep in mind is just the form, the structure that you want to portray here to the performer. So the structure can very well range from like a very, very simple structure like A and B, or you have like one A section that simply repeats with maybe a slight variation, or you can go with a simple ternary form like ABA. You can go a bit more complicated with rondo forms like ABACADAE and so on and so forth, sonata form. There's so much you can choose from. But one of my favorite forms is the simple ternary form, the ABA form, simply because it's structured in a way that allows you to present a strong theme. Then we have a B section that kind of takes a little bit of a detour. It explores different territory. It feels like you're going like you're going beyond home, like where you started from, the foundations. And then you come back at the very end, back home. So it's like you're home, you go away from home, and you come back home, like a simple 3-part structure. The story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So I sort of like the same thing for my pieces of music, especially the simpler ones. So yeah, here we have the A section that's 2 lines long. Then we have the B section, which is 2 lines long. And then it wraps up with 1 line of the A to finish. So structure is very, very important. It's, it really determines how the piece feels from start to finish, how it really flows to the listener. Okay. And the third and final thing is the arrangement itself. Like, how do you want the melody portrayed, and how do you want the arrangement in the left hand also portrayed as well? So in this case, you notice I'm using eighth notes in the left hand. I could have just gone with regular quarter notes in the left hand as well, like. Right, but that would have been a little bit too simple. Like that would have been maybe a level 1, level 2 sort of thing. So to add a little bit more momentum, I double the length, or half the length, I guess you could say, of the left hand accompaniment so that it feels like it's flowing a little bit more. So now it sounds like. So it always feels like there's a sense of flow and it's just moving. There's a bit of momentum there, right? It's almost like a river flowing in a very calm manner. So just determining how you arrange your accompaniment parts and your melody is very, very crucial. I tend to feel like the simpler the melody is, in many cases, the better. Just because it's not only easier to play for the performer, but it's also easier to digest as a listener, right? So I just tend to find that simplicity tends to work in at least 80% of cases, unless you're going for something very, very out there, So that is Hold My Hand. That's the first example. Now, of course, you can take this up a notch, right? But these same 3 principles still apply. So this is my first nocturne that I wrote called Echoes of a Storm. Let me play this for you as well. And then we can kind of dissect that a little bit using those same 3 principles. So here we go. Okay, so that was the second piece. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. But you can see that this structure, just jumping to the second principle really quick, this was actually the same structure, well, almost identical. The main difference here was that I added an intro to this piece, because the main theme, the A section, actually starts right here. The da 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 da. So I wanted to set things up with a bit more contrast. You know, I kind of started with more of a stormy wave thing, like da da da, and the left hand's kind of playing these 16th notes that are played with a lot of rubato. That's again something that is generally reserved for more intermediate advanced levels. That's where you get the sense of musicality from. Not just playing the notes, because anyone can play notes, right? It could be like even a monkey or a robot could play notes, but it's where you have that sense of push and that pull, where the phrase is moving forward. You want to let the performer do that and interpret that in a musical way. And there's also the dynamics, of course. Like when you play really softly and gently, it's a different effect than if you play really loudly and harshly. So there's all these different considerations to think about, but you can see dynamically, I started quietly, I kind of crescendo, then decrescendo. So bring up that dynamic, come back down. So it feels like the waves are pushing forward, pulling back. And then, it kind of grows a bit the second time. We have the MP, mezzo piano, and then mezzo forte the third time. So overall, it's building and building in this intro. And then it slows down. Molto rit means slow down a lot as we approach the beginning of the A section. And here in this case, we have a G sharp here, which is the exact same note as an A flat. Just enharmonic, right? They're enharmonic equivalents. But basically, I'm kind of going from C sharp minor to D flat major. But I'm using this G sharp right here as sort of a common tone between them. So it's kind of nerding over music theory a little bit here. But anyway, we're talking about structure. So we have the intro, then we have the A section here, which goes all the way up until here. So it's basically a page long. And then the B section is completely different. Now the waves, you can see it go to the right hand, a lot of this. It's all triplets, 16ths basically, down and up, down and up. So we have these waves, whereas the left hand, it has these waves as well with the eighth note triplets, but I have this inner voice that I'm trying to bring out here, the C, the D, the E flat, the G flat. So let me see if I can find that here for you. So right here. Da, right? So you hear that a little bit in there. And that's the thing, when you have really complicated textures, it can sound like a test of showmanship, but it's always nice if you have an inner melody or some sort of line that the audience can always pay attention to. I'm a big fan of that. Just being able to track a certain melodic shape, even if it sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on. So for this piece, that was sort of my intention for this section specifically. Whereas in the A section, you can hear the melody a lot more clearly. It's a very simple texture. We have eighth notes going on in the melody, and the left hand, is playing these triplet eighth notes. So it really is just two voices going on at a time. But here we have three different voices, three different parts. Then after the B section, it kind of goes back to the regular A section one more time. And then here, from bar 43 until the end, this is sort of my extended outro, if you will, like it's sort of leading us to the very end. 43 all the way up until here, 47, that technically is still part of the A section, but just a variation. So let's see if we can find it here. Right here. You can hear this as new material, right? But it gives you the sense that the piece is coming to an end. It's giving you a bit of finality here. And we have a 5 chord, so you expect a 1 chord, which we get. And now essentially we just have a couple bars to end the piece in a very peaceful way. And then we have the 1 chord, right? So yeah, ABA section, ABA structure with an intro, that's the structure there. Going back to the first principle in terms of melody, that is evident throughout as well, I would hope. Just having the clear melody in the A section, and then here you can see it's doubled in octaves essentially. So we have the melody in the pinky, but also in the thumb. So instead of just, right, it adds some more depth if you can play around with octaves as well. That's a very common technique too. And then again, here in the B section, the melody kind of transfers to the inner voice. So you kind of need a lot of control in order to bring that out properly. And then it kind of goes back to the simple approach in the final A section there. And then in terms of the arrangement, the final principle, it's a lot of just what are you trying to evoke? Like, what do you want the audience to feel? That is what really the arrangement is all about. So again, in the intro, I wanted a sense of uneasiness, like it was sort of moving and pushing and pulling, but you were never really completely settled. So that's what these 16ths were for. It kind of moves along with pedals, so it's kind of muddies up a little bit. But then by the end of the intro, it's sort of like, okay, now the clouds are clearing up, the sun is sort of peeking through almost, or that the moon is coming through because it's a nocturne. And then in the A theme, very simple texture, right? So we have these triplets in the left hand and then straight eighth notes in the right hand. Right? I kind of like the 3 against 2 sound, if you will. So that's kind of what I wanted to take advantage of here. And then again, the triplets kind of stay the same in the left hand for the second half of this A section. But again, I wanted more clarity and ringing in the melody. So I doubled it in octaves and added in the 5th a lot of the times, or the 3rd in the middle there, just to add some harmony as well. And then again, in the B section, we have those triplets still maintained in the left hand, but again, these triplet 16ths in the right hand, they really take over the ocean waves, and it's up to the single like note melody in the middle to be brought out amongst the chaos, if you will. And then we have that same pattern at the very end in the final A section. So yeah, essentially those 3 principles, those are the things that I try to keep in mind when composing for the piano. I think it's quite important. Having a melody that you really want to keep track of and control at all times. You can put the melody in the left hand too. That's totally fine. But especially for beginner level stuff, most people are right-handed. So if you put the melody in the right hand, it'll be easier to control. Have the accompaniment in the left hand. You could do simple, octave patterns, like with going between the pinky and the thumb. You can do root 5th root. You can do broken chords, arpeggios. You can do open voicings, closed voicings. It really doesn't matter. Or actually, it does matter when it comes to the 3rd step, the arrangement part, right? But focusing on that melody first, knowing exactly what you want to bring out, that's going to be your key to success for having a piece that actually stands out. And then the second thing was the actual structure of the piece. How do you want to tell that story? Is it just a simple A-B form? Is it ABA ternary? Is it going to be a rounded binary? Sonata form, extended things, like it's completely up to you, but that will really influence the listening experience from beginning to end. So just have that structure sort of in mind when thinking about writing for the piano. And then third and finally, again, is the arrangement itself. Once you have the basic skeleton of the piece laid out, the melody, the harmony, the chords you want to bring out, then think about the actual texture itself. Is it going to be fast accompaniment with lots of 16th notes or triplet patterns? Is it going to be more simple with just quarter notes or eighth notes? That will really influence how the piece feels and flows as well. So combine all those 3 principles and you will have a satisfying, enjoyable piece of music, not only to play, but also for the listeners. You can also enjoy the piece as well, okay? I hope that all made sense. And if you are interested in learning about the very basics of the piano and how to actually improvise on the piano as well, play by ear, all that stuff, and especially if you're a composer or a songwriter and you want to make your own music and from scratch, then I actually have a dedicated piano course that dives really, really deep into my process. So I've included that link down below in the description if you want to check that out. Otherwise, I've included some free resources as usual if you want to check those out as a gift for checking out this video today. But in any case, I'll see you in the next one. I hope you found this valuable. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.